one really knows how many illegal aliens come into the United States every year, and the U.S. immigration authorities don't have the manpower to prevent the exodus. Most of the Mexican aliens stay in Texas, and Texas authorities had decided not to educate young Mexicans in public schools unless their parents paid tuition. But the U.S. Supreme Court says that's wrong. The basic right of education is for everyone, not just legal residents. That will create a new tax burden on Texas, but it probably will have little effect in Oklahoma, since most state schools already take the children. But the director of the Immigration Center says the decision will give more rights to aliens than to U.S. citizens.
You've given an illegal alien more rights to go to school than you have a U.S. citizen, because if the U.S. citizen transfers to a different school out there, he's going to have to pay the tuition. You've got a citizen who now has less rights in the public school than an alien does.
39.
There is a move to grant legal status to many aliens who entered the United States illegally. If that happens, more aliens will be applying for benefits with the Immigration's office. The court adds that many of the children in question will eventually become U.S. citizens, and not educating them will only lead to a subclass of illiterates. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4 at the federal courthouse.
Contract with someone else when in fact we had that item on the agenda a few weeks ago to negotiate.
I'll find out what's legal.
Mr. Powell,
But I believe that we can handle it from...
I understand it, Mr. Frank, with the company that was the number one recommendation, which I believe was Volume.
Now, from to do something to the lake out there to take some of the mess out of the water after we pump it in here. You got the manner in which the big boys have attempted to step on Mike Elder is probably one of the most scurrilous kinds of acts that I have seen in negotiating a contract for anything that I've seen since I've been on this council. I have received some of the most scurrilous mail.
Since Tuesday afternoon, the McAllister Municipal Airport has been used as a command post for the Civil Air Patrol.
Okay, I'd suggest going out of here.
Right, and come back in.
And coming back in, if you get into the scud and stuff, we'll do 180 and come on back.
Yeah.
Inside, officials were trying to calculate just where the Piper Saratoga plane could be. It went down in a thunderstorm, and the last thing the pilot said was he had lost one of the wings. Search crews were hoping that an emergency locator signal in the plane would guide them to the wreckage without much trouble.
I've got my plotter out, and I've got a little computer out if we need it.
Colonel Bill Moreland says the air search had to be delayed for safety reasons.
The weather's held us down this morning due to low ceilings, particularly in the mountainous areas, and then the ceilings in this area has been marginal.
The Civil Air Patrol has a pretty good idea of where the plane went down. They don't want to risk any more planes going down by having the searchers fly too low. They'll be looking for the missing plane in some very rugged country. The trees seemed to cover the entire mountain. There was not even a path of shredded trees to trace the aircraft. But early in the afternoon, the plane was spotted, and there were no survivors. Killed were pilot George Fatato, Dale Hamby, and his wife Billy from Texas. The plane was on its way to Tulsa from Tyler, Texas. Action 4's helicopter helped by guiding ground crews to the accident scene. An Army helicopter will be used to bring the wreckage and the bodies out. Ed Stewart, Action 4 of the Jack Fork Mountains.
L.T. Brown was warden at the Conner Correctional Center in Hominy for 2 years. He resigned last month when a Corrections Department investigation turned up serious allegations of wrongdoing at the prison. Corrections Director Larry Meacham accepted Brown's resignation. But the next day, Brown asked to be reinstated. Meacham refused that request. The Corrections Board met behind closed doors to discuss the former warden's fate. Brown supporters call the charges against him trivial. They claim the former warden is accused of having his prison purchasing agent buy an oven for the warden's home, buying soft drinks for a reception at wholesale rather than retail prices, and for using inmates to repair his personal car and to move his personal furniture. Just moments ago, the board broke up its executive session. The members voted to back up Director Meacham.
In sum, it is the position of this board that Director Meacham has acted properly within his authority. And in further disposition of this case, he may proceed with this board's full confidence and support.
Delbert and Carol Rumbo were at Will Rogers World Airport Sunday afternoon. They were waiting for a plane to take them to Denver, then on to Sacramento, California, where they would be reunited with their daughter, 20-month-old Christine. Christine had been taken from their Cushing home last Thursday by 17-year-old Sharon Fisher.
Told him that Crystal had taken off with the baby.
Sharon Fisher was using the name Crystal at that time. After she took Christine, they hitchhiked to California. Rumbo said he got the news his daughter had been found about 3 o'clock Sunday morning.
The FBI told us that they'd had her and that she was in good condition, but they was going to take her to the hospital, have her checked out anyway just to be certain.
It's terrific. I feel great. I'm glad they were able to find her this soon for us.
I think she needs to be prosecuted for doing something like that myself,
Fisher's mother lives in Sacramento, but officials don't know if she was going to her mother's home. However, the Rumbos do know that their daughter will be coming back to their home and to her favorite stuffed animal, Sheepy. That made this Father's Day a special day for them. Bill Ross, Action 4 at Will Rogers World Airport.
Better, all right? We had the people there that knew how to grade the grain in each bin in case there was, the scales were off just a little bit or we need something like the FSLIC type approach. Because, when we deposit our grain, it's like you depositing your paycheck in a bank, but that's our year's work. And we need the same type of protection for that grain.
During the day, it's a little easier to keep an eye on boats at docks owned by Oklahoma City. Some boat owners pay as much as $200 a year, only to lose 10 times that amount in just one night because of vandals. In many cases, more damage is actually done to the boat than the items stolen or ramshacked. The Oklahoma City Council discussed the possibility of hiring at least 3 more park rangers to help patrol during the summer hours. This at a cost of about $19,000. The part-time help was not originally included in the budget, and one councilman feels the solution is with the police.
I think the secret, possibly the answer, could be that, and I know when there's an increase in crime in a certain residential area, the police department will start patrolling that area. And I really believe that a police cruiser going through there, or by Stars and Stripes, or whether it's Brock Park, or wherever the problem is, because if they leave that park, they're going to go to another one.
The council decided not to spend the $19,000 for additional help, basically because it felt it wouldn't do much good. Instead, they'll spend some money for things like better lighting here at the docks. Until something finally is done, it's been suggested that boaters use the buddy system. That is, boat owners look out for other boat owners. Ed Stewart, Action 4 at Lake Hefner. For additional help, basically because it felt it wouldn't do much good. Instead, they'll spend some money for things like better lighting here at the docks. Until something finally is done, it's been suggested that boaters use the buddy system. That is, boat owners look out for other boat owners. Ed Stewart, Action 4 at Lake Hefner.
The Millers had only been living in Oklahoma City for 2 months when 2 of their sons left their room at the Rio Motel Saturday while Mrs. Miller was asleep. 2-year-old Diamond Miller fell into a condemned swimming pool at the motel and is still in critical condition at Children's Memorial Hospital. Doctors say Diamond can breathe on his own now and may be taken off a respirator soon, but he remains in a coma. Diamond and his older brother Joseph were able to leave the family's room at the motel because the doors have no locks on them. A motel maid broke the lock the Millers put on themselves. Mrs. Miller holds the Rio Motel responsible for the accident.
And the swimming pool, it had slimy, muddy water in it, and a trash can floating in there, and all kinds of boards and stuff. Yes, I do. And there was no fence or nothing around it where the kids, there's other kids staying at the motel too, besides my own.
Claudia Miller has quit her job as a waitress so she can spend her time at the hospital intensive care ward. Her 2 other children stay with her, only yards away from where doctors and nurses take care of young Diamond. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4 at Children's Memorial Hospital.
Both sides have come out of the gate standing firm in their positions. There have been no real changes in their arguments. Those 4 parimutuel betting in Oklahoma say the business of horses is the 3rd largest industry in the state, and it's time the big money made from racing them was kept here. Those against parimutuel betting are worried organized crime will move in with the racetracks, as well as gamblers with no money to gamble. Now they have to get their ideas across to Oklahoma's voters before September 21st.
Now we're trying to gear back up, contact all our members in the 77 counties of Oklahoma, get them all the current information on the latest developments, the latest studies in other states, and what actually is the impact of parimutuel racing, what information do the voters need, and then we're trying to set up a system for them to get that information out to the voters.
Those against parimutuel betting say they also have to get out and inform the public, but first they'll have to get the money.
We're up against big money when you're up against the big-time horse operators and gamblers in this state. So our main drive for immediately will try to get some money to finance some kind of a public relations program.
Both sides say it's going to be a long race this summer, full of hard work, with only one winner this fall. Sherry Sellers, Action 4.
Well, I think it was poorly researched from a technical viewpoint and has ended up more restrictive than is really necessary to ensure the safety of the people in Edmond. And I think that wind power is going to play a big role in reducing utility bills throughout the state of Oklahoma because of our plentiful wind resource, and I just hate to see something that's overly restrictive put into effect.
Emmanuel Deflee looks like a typical child playing at the children's ward at Presbyterian Hospital, but the 20-month-old Haitian baby has a serious medical problem that prompted the International Lifeline organization to step in and help. Emmanuel was born with a non-perforated rectum, and although doctors in Haiti tried to solve the problem, they lacked the medical facilities. Presbyterian Hospital has volunteered their services for what was Emmanuel's only chance.
Emmanuel's going to have 2 operations. The first one's going to be Friday morning, and then he'll have the second one a couple of weeks later. And then Emmanuel will go back to Haiti, back to his home there, and the prospects are very good for a normal life. We have a couple of doctors on our staff there, and they will be looking after him.
Emmanuel has captured the hearts of the hospital staff. The boy and his mother will have been here about a month by the time the operations are complete and the pair can head back to their home. There are other children in Haiti with other problems that Haitian doctors can't solve. Solving those problems costs money, and the average income in Haiti is only $250 a year. So the International Lifeline wants to bring more children to the United States for treatment, to give them a chance for a normal life. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4 at Presbyterian Hospital.
And also, in essence, they need to gain the confidence and interest of the citizens it is to serve. In its effort to constantly update the methods of law enforcement personnel, the Oklahoma City Police Department
well-rounded versatility of the breed. With the 1982 at the Oklahoma State Fairgrounds here in Oklahoma City. I want to thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Brown.
Work crews are trying to put everything in place for the downtown street dance. It begins this evening at 9 o'clock. The group Mountain Smoke is expected to entertain about 7,500 people. A turnout of about 50,000 is expected for Edmond's parade tomorrow. Festival President Steve Gregg says the day will be filled with activities.
The street dance starts tonight right here at 1st and Broadway here in Edmond. Tomorrow morning we'll have the parade starting at 10 a.m. At 12:30, we'll have the park activities at Hafer Park, and at 8 o'clock tomorrow evening, we'll have the fireworks with singing, musical presentation, skydivers, a flyover of aircraft, and about 40 minutes of aerial and ground displays.
And Sunday morning, Gregg says there will be a non-denominational worship service at Liberty Park. The service begins at 8:15. This is the 10th year for the July 4th Festival in Edmond. This celebration, by the way, has been declared the Diamond Jubilee celebration by the state. Ben McCain, Action 4 in Edmond.
Yes, there was a run at Penn Square Bank this morning, but primarily from depositors getting enough cash to get through the long holiday weekend. There were reports earlier in the week that some of the bank's major depositors were pulling their money out, fearing the bank would be forced to close. But today, most people said they still had faith in their lending institution.
I mean, I just deposited 3 paychecks. I was concerned I wouldn't deposit it. I saw it on the news last night. I read it in yesterday morning's paper, but it doesn't bother me.
Not a bit, not a bit. I've known Bill Jennings a long, long time. I just needed some cash, that's all.
No, because I think this bank is under very good management. We were the first customer to ever walk in the doors over there. I didn't take my CDs out. I just took some checking account.
The bank, which reported assets of more than $484.4 million at the end of December, wrote off more than $4.2 million in loan losses last year. But that fact doesn't scare Bank Chairman Bill Jennings. Jennings says his bank does have problem loans like everyone else, but adds the institution is still solvent.
We're proud of our customers, and some of them are having problems now, just like farmers and other people are having some problems now. And this is a federally insured national bank.
To date, no one has lost money at Penn Square Bank, and bank officials are determined not to be a casualty of the sagging oil business. Kurt Autry, Action 4.
Business.
Only a few big names came in to file this morning, including the governor and a couple of congressmen. The filing period doesn't end until 5 o'clock Wednesday, so many people may hold off, perhaps to see who their opposition is. Election Board Secretary Lee Slater predicts 600 to 700 people will sign up. He also predicts more women.
I wouldn't be surprised if we haven't had more women. It seems that we get more each 2 years during the filing period than we have.
Judges will also be up for election, and district attorneys. Oklahoma County District Attorney Bob Macy spent his 52nd birthday signing in.
Some candidates didn't think it was very exciting to go in, sign their name, and pay a filing fee. So they decided to do something unusual to get a little bit of attention as the campaign strategies begin.
A semi-truck loaded with Mike Turpin supporters came barreling up to the state capitol all the way from Muskogee to get some publicity for his race for Attorney General against incumbent Jan Eric Cartwright.
Hey, give us a smile, get on TV here.
There was only one problem with Turpin's strategy. Monday was a holiday, and very few people saw the truck. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at the state capitol.
The FDIC moved quickly to try to calm depositors' fears. The corporation's chairman, Bill Isaac, held a press conference early Tuesday morning at the Hilton Inn. Isaac told bank customers that money was available for insured depositors, those with accounts of less than $100,000. They could continue to write checks on their checking accounts. He said depositors didn't even have to come to the bank to get their money. Nevertheless, the bank would remain open 24 hours a day, if necessary, to meet the customers' needs. And Isaac had this to say about bank management.
I think any time that a bank fails, you have to have some questions about the performance of bank management, but at this stage it's too early to make an evaluation, a finding on that score. The FDIC was first informed of this situation last Wednesday morning. So as you can imagine, we haven't had very much time to do a thorough investigation. We will do that over the course of the next months to try to determine exactly what happened and why it happened.
Despite Isaac's pledge their funds were safe, bank customers began lining up before 9 this morning. The lines have remained constant throughout the day because these people want their money in their own hands. And as the day progressed, these customers were able to get their money. So while the bank may have failed, the FDIC is doing what it can to make sure that failure doesn't hurt the bank's depositors. Bill Ross, Action 4 at Penn Square Mall.
No, I don't think so. I think any time that we have charges like this, they have to be investigated fully. And I think that certainly the press presses forward, and they have to be satisfied that that these charges are either dealt with in the proper manner, namely that the proper action is taken in the courts, the prosecution takes place, and the wrongdoers are dealt with, or that they're found to be groundless. But in my capacity as head of a subcommittee that has jurisdiction over the Drug Enforcement Agency and all the drug matters in the Congress, as well as around the country, I must say that the charges dealing with drugs in the Congress disturbs me a great deal. But I think it points out the problems that our society is having. We're finding that the drug problem has crept into virtually all aspects of American society, and it's a question whether the American people are going to tolerate it.
Kay County is located in northern Oklahoma. Wheat farmers here are caught in a bind. It's been an unusual year. Continuous rains have delayed the harvest. In the meantime, weeds have taken over entire fields.
There ain't no way that you can run that through a combine and get it into the elevator, because the last batch that I tried to cut, and it wasn't near as bad as what you've seen right here, was running over 19% moisture, and they just flat don't want it.
Just gums the whole thing up, and first thing you know, the wheat that's going into it, if you can get it in there, just goes right out the back end on the ground, and you might wind up with a bin full of weeds. And when you go to the elevator, you know, they look at you and say, what in the world is that?
These farmers want to use the chemical paraquat to dry up the weeds, but the Environmental Protection Agency won't allow it. They're seeking a special permit. Even some State Department of Agriculture officials are trying to help.
We've been in touch with EPA discussing the possibility of getting a change in their attitude relative to a crisis exemption for the use of paraquat this year, but they have refused to change their position until they get more residue data from the chemical company that makes the product. So as of right now, we are bound to stay with the decision that we've just made.
Dr. Flora says farmers will lose because of the restriction, but it is for the protection of consumers. Ben McCain, Action 4.
The area is called Little Dixie. It's rich with natural beauty, but its people are among the poorest in the nation. And the farming is bad because the rains from the spring wet season aren't properly stored till the dry summer months. That should change soon. Oklahoma's national and state leaders dedicated the start of construction on the McGee Creek Reservoir this morning. The reservoir will provide recreation and will be a major source of water for cities in both Little Dixie and as far away as Oklahoma City. For Governor Nye, it's part of the answer to the state's water needs.
But the need of water and the use and the adequate distribution of water is the greatest common thread that we have going through us in the future of this state. That probably would be true in any community in this world.
But for Congressman Wes Watkins, who represents Little Dixie, this means much more. Unemployment sits at an uncomfortable 15% here, and the project will mean jobs and a stabler economy in the long run.
I hope the word will go forth across this state that there will be no federal dollars for any water project that will not maximize the economic, the industrial, and the job development for our area of the state of Oklahoma.
It has taken years of political maneuvering to get the project approved and financed. It's estimated to cost more than $150 million before it's finished, hopefully by 1985. Today was a milestone, and state leaders hope that it was only one of many. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4 at McGee Creek.